choosing you doesn't mean you love others any less. It doesn't mean that you're not grateful for the path that prior to this or the chapter or seasons prior to this. It just means that you're in a different space in your life where you want to honor your life and honor yourself in a very different way.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome back to the show, friend. I have a new best friend, Lena, with me today, and I am so excited to talk to her. She is going to help us through that. I'm going to call it a slump right now. But you love your life. You love your family. You love your job. You love your friends and all the fun things you get to do. But sometimes that passion, that oomph kind of is gone. And it's like, how do I get myself out of bed today to keep going? And it might just be a one-time thing, but we all have those unfulfilled moments when we're wondering, what am I doing all this for? So Lena's going to help us to target into what are we doing this for and how do we tap into that? So before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. And when we come back, Lena, help us. So we'll be right back. Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list their coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LaraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network. All right, Lena, help me to tune into, I'm going to call it more joy, more fulfillment, more where I feel like I'm existing for me and not just everybody else.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. So I think, it is, first of all, really important to recognize that you're not the only person feeling this way. So that's the first thing I kind of want to get out the way. But there are several ways to really identify solutions in terms of how do we move from this place of feeling gratitude, but then also feeling like there's more. We desire more. And you can have two different feelings happening simultaneously, and they're both true. So when we think about, someone who might be in their career who's been extremely successful, but all of a sudden we're at this stage in life where we just don't feel completely fulfilled. I think one of the things that could be helpful is really understanding or redefining, does success still have the same meaning for me? I think that's important to ask yourself that question. Because as life evolves, as we evolve, success sometimes tends to take on a different meaning. So that would be one of the things that I would share and ask yourself, what does that look like for me? And if I am not in alignment with that, what do I need to do differently in order to create that alignment? So, your why could change because you're no longer primarily a mom with little kids. They're all grown, they're going off to college. And so your why shifts a little bit. So asking yourself, how do I redefine success for my life? What does that look and feel like? What really fuels me? Because my why can shift based on how I've evolved and based on how my life has evolved and those changes. I think the other thing that, we might want to start asking ourselves is really, where have I continuously put others first and neglected myself? I think we're all tend to make that, I don't want to call it a mistake, but life unfolds in such a way that we find ourselves nurturing everything and all the spaces around us. And we do that at the detriment of our own selves. And so asking ourselves, if I feel empty, if I feel like I need to be fueled, how do I fuel myself? What exactly am I missing? Where are the places that I have lost my joy? Pausing to even think about, what brings me joy? What exactly brings me joy? It could be a dream deferred. It could be a simple hobby that we used to do that we don't do anymore. It could be something that we've always wanted to explore, but we never had the time or the capacity to be able to do that. So, really figuring out how do we reignite our joy and then creating boundaries and putting boundaries in place where we honor our time. We honor the things that we want to do and being unapologetic about that, not feeling guilty because we're now choosing to create a new normal, which is I need to honor myself. I need to be able to fuel myself. I need to really figure out what does self-care look like for me? And it's not just about sure getting your nails done and your feet done. Those are great things, but how do you care for your mind, your heart, your soul? How do you do that in a different way that doesn't create this feeling of emptiness, but now creates this newfound joy that you're searching for and that you're looking for? So, those are some of the things I would suggest in terms of how do you start to feel or move from this autopilot that happens so often into a space of alignment that really fuels your inner calm and your joy?
As you're talking about, it's like a new chapter in my book. What fulfilled me when my children were infants and toddlers is not going to fulfill me now. Um, I'm not going to stay up all night making sure someone's not crying, staying awake, keeping everybody else awake. I mean, there's things that we did out of necessity that brought
Mhm.
us joy because we loved that little thing. But now they're leaving the house. They're like in high school and they're going to leave, and letting go and allowing them to move on and become more of themselves, their next chapter. But
Mhm.
what's my next chapter? And just looking at what brought you joy before may not be what's going to bring you joy again. I loved cuddling my babies, but that's not what I want to do all day long anymore. So what
Right.
is now? And I loved what you brought up about exploring. What is out there that I might be able to do that would bring me joy? Try it. If it makes you happy for a day, do it again. And if it stops making you happy, it's okay to change. So that exploration is give it a shot. And I find joy in the exploration. It's fun.
Mhm.
These
Yeah.
passions that you have for 2 months and then they're gone, but that's okay.
Yeah. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, be willing to really explore those things that you've thought about, but you've never taken the time to pursue.
Or someone, you just heard about it. It's like, I never heard of doing that. That sounds fun. Let's go try it. Like, we're going to go try the salt caves. And we used to have to drive a long distance for them. And now a lot of the places have them. And it's just that
Mhm.
ability to have that cleansing air and not be at the beach. So, what is that thing that you might be able to do? Have you tried a sound bath? These are things that fix the inside. I call it self care from the inside out
Mhm.
because we can look pretty and still feel like crap.
Absolutely.
We can put on a happy face. We can make it through the day at work, and everybody thinks, well, Lara Jane's got her shit together.
Yeah.
All my collapse. And so, what is it that I can try and do and feed that inside? And I was thinking recently about, we have electric cars, we have diesel cars, we have big monster trucks that take regular gas and luxury cars that take premium gas. And did you know everybody has their own way of filling up? And
Mhm.
you don't have to feel bad for not plugging in to the electrical socket if that's not the way you fill up. And so sometimes it takes a lot of exploration to figure out what does.
Mm.
Charging your phone, you can put on a trickle charge or a fast charge. What do you need? What feels good to you? And do that. And you don't have to have all that. This makes me feel good. So this is what I'm doing now. It's like
Yeah.
explore. I love that word. A lot of people use the word curious, and
Yep.
it's kind of the same, but curious kind of is inquisitive and sounds like, and I'm not bashing that word because I love it, but like the kid that always asks why,
Right.
why, why, like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think even for the career woman who's been successful, she can get to a point where she's very successful, but there's something missing and she can feel that on the inside. And so it's okay to bet on yourself. I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for all the things and the knowledge and the wisdom and the skills that we've acquired to achieve that success. Those could be transferable into doing something else that maybe you're more passionate about. That fuel, kind of we're talking about fueling you. And I think sometimes fear sets in and we're afraid to bet on ourselves because we don't give ourselves enough credit for all that we've acquired. And so as you redefine success that we just talked about, it's also acknowledging that I have a lot of skills, I have a lot of talents, I have a lot of success that I can probably transfer into a new space that's going to bring me a lot more joy and that I absolutely can do with the greatest level of expertise because I've proven that I can be successful, and fear unfortunately sometimes keeps us stuck and not acknowledging that.
And also, I've always done math. I'm the accountant and I'm so good at all of those figures and sitting down and knowing how to make this work.
Mhm.
But it's okay to let that skill go to the side if you need to be away from your desk and exploring. You know,
Mhm.
acknowledge this got me here. I'm done doing that. And it's okay to change. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't do what I did for 30 years anymore because I'm done with it. It brought me joy, it brought me pleasure, it brought me success, but I don't do that. Am I lonely? No, I found a new me and it was always there. It just showed up.
Always there.
I
Yeah,
planted all the right seeds. And so it's allowing yourself to appreciate what you had or
mhm.
have and stop using it if it's not joyous again.
Absolutely. I could definitely identify that was kind of my journey last year when I just retired from an HR career after 25 years, and I made the decision that this has been great. I've been successful, but I don't wanna do this anymore. I wanna make sure because a couple years ago when I turned 50, this epiphany happened, and it was like, how do I want to be remembered? What do I want my legacy to look like? What brings me the most joy? And I realized that while that was good and I'm grateful for that season, that just doesn't meet me where I want to be in this chapter or season of my life. And it's always okay to turn the corner and go where you'd like to go. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's like growing up, it's like, oh, women don't act like that. Change the way you act. And we've got all this programming, don't do that. We don't jump out of airplanes. You know what? If you want to jump out of an airplane, do it. If you want to climb Mount Everest, do it. Make sure you're training first. Make sure but you can do
Yeah.
it. There's no
Absolutely.
limits if you
Mhm.
want to, other than what's in our brain. Our brain is our only limiter.
That's so true. I agree, and I think we have to push past the fear that shows up and the uncertainty and the self-doubt and the judgment that we might get from other people. All those things start to speak loudly. And sometimes, if we're not careful, we'll allow those things to speak more loudly than what our heart's desires. And so, acknowledging that whenever you decide to do something different or you decide to renew your purpose and your passion and take a different route from what people might be used to seeing, that you're always going to feel this sense of, is this the right thing? Are people going to look at me differently? Am I going to belong or feel accepted? And acknowledging that that's going to happen, but deciding I'm choosing me over all of that, I think is so very powerful. And I think more women need to be okay with, I'm choosing me in this season, I'm choosing me in this chapter. And choosing you doesn't mean you love others any less. It doesn't mean that you're not grateful for the path that prior to this or the chapter or seasons prior to this. It just means that you're in a different space in your life where you want to honor your life and honor yourself in a very different way. And the only person that I think that you need to make sure that you are feeling some sense of fulfillment is you. No one can do that for you. No one can make that happen for you. Your inner happiness and your joy and your peace and your fulfillment must come from within. And so you have that full responsibility to make sure that that takes place, even if that means sometimes you might have to disappoint others. And that could be hard sometimes to reconcile.
You remind me of a story. Interviewed a young man a couple years ago. And one of the things that he was more of, I'm the child, this is the parent, she's making life changes. And one of the things that he said is his mother really struggled with, she loved music, but she gave it up to raise her kids.
Mm,
And she'd come home from work, she was a lawyer, and she'd just start barking orders and barking, here's what we got to do, and just running the family like a business. And she decided that she wasn't going to do that first thing when she got home anymore. She was going to come home and she was going to play her piano for 30 minutes because she had been giving up her own personal time of loving that music process. And she would come home and she'd just say, kids, leave me alone for 30 minutes. I'm doing this. And she would
mhm,
sit down and just play the piano. He said that even though it was a little bit of adjustment to not have mom right there, that they got a better mom for the
mhm,
rest of the night. That it was a calm mom, a mom that had filled her own cup and now had the energy to
mhm.
share it with her kids instead of the, I got to get all this done so we can go to bed and we can start again tomorrow. There was just that go, go, go. And all of a sudden it was a, let's have a good evening. And so you may feel that you're giving up on your kids or you're taking away time from your kids. But when you take those moments for you, you're actually giving them more quality time. Quantity is
Yes.
not worth it if it's not quality.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, the more that we fuel ourselves, the better we're able to serve others in our lives. And I remember when I was in corporate, I was a workaholic, unfortunately, which is why I needed to give it up, right? And I remember once I made the decision to leave, I remember telling my daughter that I'm going to start. She's 17, and I remember telling her, I am putting time on my calendar. And unless you are, in some dire emergency, this is uninterrupted time for me. And I needed to do something extreme like putting myself on my calendar because I would always allow other things to interrupt time that I try to dedicate to myself. And so I now had to make this like, this is non-negotiable time for myself. And so to the woman who struggled with that, put time on your calendar that's dedicated for you and be very intentional about not allowing others to disrupt that time and protect that boundary that you've created for yourself until it becomes something that you do naturally. Now it's a lot easier for me, but I struggled with that in the beginning. But when you dedicate that time, because I always say honor the commitments that you make to yourself. Sometimes it's easier for us to honor the commitments that we make to our children, our spouses, and our friends. But are you really honoring the commitments that you make to yourself? And part of that is really honoring time that you should be dedicating to, fueling your soul.
You know, and fueling yourself the right way. And it,
Mhm.
if you come home and you go, I'm just going to sit in the car for 2 minutes and you give yourself a trickle charge for 2 minutes, you might not make it through the night.
Right.
Really identify what you need to do a recharge. Um, and not just because if you are going somewhere and you realize your phone is almost dead and you go, oh, I better charge it. And all night you're going, oh, I'm only on 20%. I might not make it. Oh, darn, it's 19 already. And you worry about that charge.
Mhm.
So if you take the time to fully fill up you're not going to worry. You know you're going to last. You know it's going to work. And yes, it's hard. I know how hard it is
Mm.
to give yourself permission to fully charge. I was the microcharger. Give it 5 minutes. I can keep going. Give it 5 minutes. It doesn't feel the same as when you
Mhm.
pull it all the way up.
Yeah.
It would be like stopping at every city to fill up $5 of gas.
Mhm.
I gotta get a little bit further, $5 more dollars. Wouldn't you rather just drive 300 miles? Just
That's a good analogy. I love that analogy. Absolutely. Yeah. It's the guilt. I firmly believe sometimes it's the guilt. We feel guilty for prioritizing ourselves and we forget that, hey, if I do this, then I get to serve in a better capacity and I get to, fuel the lives of other people around me in a much more meaningful way. I remember I worked from home for part of my career, and my daughter one day said to me, like, "Mom, I feel like I don't have enough of your time with you." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, I work from home. I'm always here." And so while I was physically present, I wasn't really present in terms of carving out meaningful time for her because I was always working. And I think sometimes we don't always realize that you might be physically present, but are you really mentally, emotionally, present for meeting the needs of those around you? And it could be really tricky if we're not careful to make sure that we're just not checking off a box, but to make sure that those moments are meaningful and that they really matter, not just to us, but to the people that we're doing life with.
and where's that balance of guilt, because it is very difficult to find it, but it is doable. And it,
Yes.
for me, it took a lot of experimentation of trying different things. I- you know, my kids felt more alone when I was working from home than when I would go to the office and work. They felt like, but you never talked to me because they saw me but weren't communicating with me. And so
Mm,
there's where do you do that separation and then go, just pretend like I'm at the office. I know that that's hard to say when you can see me, but text me.
mhm.
I'll let you know if I have time to chat because I am working.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
you definitely can relate to that. Yeah.
you need to really want it. Do you really want it?
Mm,
That's the first thing. Do you really want to find more peace in being all of the things to everybody?
mhm,
And if it is, start exploring, start experimenting, and figure out how to get that fast charge. How
mhm.
can I fill up fast and move on?
Yeah. And be willing to walk away from things that may have been your norm for a long time. Be willing to walk away from things that were once aligned, but they're no longer aligned. I think sometimes walking away is what creates some of that guilt. Like, well, this is what I've always known. And, you know, our brains are wired in such a way that if we try to do something different, it sees it as a threat, right? And so part of creating something new sometimes means that you have to end and walk away from something that you once loved or that meant a lot to you. But just because it meant a lot to you or it was meaningful in that season doesn't mean that it's going to have the same meaning in this season. And being okay with walking away and knowing that walking away could be part of the journey. And it is possible to have grief over that, but still have gratitude for where you're going and for what you're doing for yourself.
And it's like that new chapter. Do you feel guilty when you turn the page in a book? No. You know that the story goes on. Do
Mhm,
you feel guilty seasonally when you put your swimsuit away or you put your boots away or they're not needed right now? And just because you have boots doesn't mean I need to carry them with me everywhere in the summer. But when the snow hits, I need some traction. And so,
mhm,
what is it that you need in this chapter of your life right now? And know all those amazing skills and things that you've learned over the years are still there. You just don't have to use them right now.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. Yeah. I think also getting that clarity and figuring out like what because we don't pause long enough to really think about what does that really look like? And we don't ask ourselves. So this might be something that can help someone. It's like it wasn't just about what brings me joy, but it was also about like what are the things that I want to do on a daily basis? What do I want to do when I wake up in the morning? How do I want to feel throughout the day? Asking some of those micro questions, I think, helps to bring that clarity. How do I want to spend time with my friends? And, we all know that we lose friends along the way because chapters evolve, but then we have other friends that we make later on in life. And so, really getting specific about how do I want to feel? What do I want my days to look like? Where do I want to live? Like something simple like where do I want to live could shift in your next chapter. I'm a beach girl, which is why I live in Florida. But I didn't live in Florida before. I lived in the cold before, but the cold doesn't work for me anymore. And so being okay with the fact that things that meant a lot to you will change, but really getting the clarity in terms of what are the things that I'm going to enjoy the most in this season and getting that specific clarity that really helps you. Because don't do something because, oh, my friend is doing that or they did that, so I'm going to try that. I mean, if you're genuinely curious, absolutely. But just because others might be doing something in that season doesn't mean that that's the thing for you. Be okay with your unique path, and be confident about that.
And I love that word confident. It's not arrogance. Arrogance is when you pretend like you're better than everybody else.
Right.
And confidence is I am okay with me. Even if somebody else looks better, I like me just the way I am. And that is confidence. When you walk into the room and it's, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's how amazing that would feel. And I have it at moments. I don't have it all the time, but
Mhm.
it's like, depends on what you walk into. If it's all strangers, I get kind of sheepish, like, oh, I might not measure up. And then I was like, who's measuring?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I understand the concept of imposter syndrome, but I don't like it. Like I'm just like, it's a real thing, but it's like it's okay to be just uniquely you. And I try to encourage women to embrace your quirkiness, embrace the things about you that are different because that's what makes you unique. And why would you want to look and sound like everybody else? Like it's okay to be different. And I think as we get older, like it's so beautiful to lean into the freedom of that and not be so concerned about, especially when you're in corporate, like dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, like that is a rigid way that I think sometimes causes us to shrink in reality, whereas when we lean into just the authenticity of who we are, there's a beauty and a freedom that comes with that and just being comfortable in just who you are, even if that makes you remarkably different, which we should all want to be remarkably different.
As a child, I wanted to be like the cool kids,
Mhm.
like they were the image. And then you get a little bit older and you're a teenager and you want to be like the ones in the magazines. And then you get a little older and you want to be like the ones on TV. You know, there is not a soul. But when you can get to the point where there is not a soul in this world that you want to be other than yourself, you've got it made because now you can be the best you because you're not, it's okay. It's okay to go pick this and pick that and pick things that you like about other people and see if you like them for you. Might not be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just like, it's okay when you can just be okay. I wish I could have that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me a while. It took me a while to get to that place. When I was younger, I struggled a lot with just kind of rejection, and I expected to kind of be rejected everywhere I went. And that comes from being adopted as a little child. And I I wish I had grasped just how beautiful it is to just be totally content with just who you are. And there are people who may still reject you, but that's okay. Like, that has nothing to do with me. Like, if you choose to reject me, that's perfectly okay. I'm still going to be who I am because I have that inner peace and that inner joy and that inner fulfillment. So what's happening externally, I'll be like, "Oh, okay." But then I'm still good on the inside. And I think maturity, that comes with maturity too, but it comes with, being able, back to your great word, being able to explore and get comfortable with just being who you are in all of its beauty, in all of its brilliance, and understand some people will accept you, some people won't, but that doesn't change who you are, and that's okay.
What's that saying that's, I would rather be hated for who I am than liked for who I am not.
Mhm.
And it's like, if you're always hiding who you are and pretending to be somebody else, what does that leave you?
Mhm.
And you mentioned a little bit about imposter syndrome. And hey, you were in HR. You do not hire a perfect candidate. You do not hire someone that's going to fill all the buckets. You hire the one that has the aptitude to get to there. And
Mhm.
you're going to groom and there's a path. You might have someone that can step in it faster than another.
Yeah.
Nobody is expected to be 100% perfect. And when you're sitting there with that imposter, you would not be in that position had somebody not seen your potential.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
you wouldn't be there. I've hired tons of people. I've fired a few. You move on if
You
there's
do.
no longer potential. And take that. Don't
Mm.
worry about whether you're doing the job perfectly.
Mhm.
Know that you're the perfect person for the job.
Yeah. Yeah, and just releasing, because part of the imposter syndrome is that perfectionism sometimes, right, is something that we battle and deal with. And I think when we are moving into the next chapter of our lives and we're creating these, new normals for ourselves, some of us struggle with perfectionism, and there is a certain level of freedom that you also experience when you release the need to be perfect. I always say that, when I left corporate, it's like some of these guardrails that were always there are no longer there, in terms of I get to be the fullest expression of who I am, and I don't have to worry about certain things, especially when you work in HR, right? Like, there are even more guardrails than other areas, and being the fullest expression of yourself, like, that cannot coexist with perfectionism. It just cannot. And you have to be okay with, I am who I am. I am free to be who I am, and perfectionism doesn't exist. And that's okay. That's okay. And for many of us, high achieving women especially, releasing that can be a little bit of a challenge, and you have to walk that journey out. But if you're trying to get to a place where you're really experiencing that inner freedom, releasing perfectionism will help you along the way. Just release it. There's no need for it, and it's not a thing. No one's perfect. We try to be, but it's not a thing.
And corporate's a great fit for a lot of people. And you can be your best you in
Mhm.
that environment. And if you want to leave, that's also the best you. There gets to be a point where this world is so focused on around money. Like, I need to be able to feed myself for the rest of the life. I need to be able to do X. I need to have a house. I need all those security things seem to come from money. And so it might just be a chapter. It could be the rest of your life. I don't think my husband will ever retire. He might quit working,
Mhm.
but he will always stay super busy and productive
Mhm.
in many, many things. And I enjoy a chill. I enjoy to do not a darn thing all day if I choose.
Mhm.
And I can do the opposite, but I love the freedom, that ability to pick each day when I wake up, what
Mhm.
is my goal for today? And we all can do that. And our goal can be the best day at the office ever, or the best day with our kids ever, or the best day alone ever. You get a pick, and only you can create it.
That's right. That's right. And I think some of us are just conditioned to live life by default. And so when you live life by default, you don't explore the options that are available. And so, based on what you just said, like we all have the ability to create those options for ourselves, whatever that looks like for you. But it's kinda like, I need to be intentional about saying, "I'm no longer kinda living by default. I'm gonna figure out, what is that clarity? What is that peace? What is that joy? What is that fulfillment, that meaning? What does that look like for me?" And be okay, with creating that for myself and giving yourself more options. Doesn't mean you have to give up what you once loved at all. It just means that, hey, maybe one day I wanna sit here and coach clients, and another day I want to go to Clearwater Beach and hang out with my family. And I have the option to do that because I created that lifestyle for myself, whereas I didn't do that 10 years ago because my priorities looked very different at that point. And so, honoring your evolution, I think, helps to give you those options if you choose to do that.
Yep, it's not the end. It's just another chapter, and you get to write it. And even if somebody else really helped you write the previous chapters, you can have help if you want, or you can write it yourself.
Hmm.
As long as you feel good about your life and, just letting go. Like, I know that sounds so easy. But what is it, that maybe I'm too old and nobody else is gonna remember this, but that cat hanging on the wire,
Oh, I
and
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
and it says, "Thank God it's Friday."
Friday. Yep.
No, I don't wanna live a life holding on
Yeah.
for Friday to come. I wanna live my
Yeah.
life every day, and I want you to too,
Mhm.
find that joy, and being at the office to me was joy. You
Mhm.
know, doing those things was fun. I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I just don't do it now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay. And there are some people who, for them, their entire path is corporate, and that's what fuels them. And I think it's okay to realize that we're all fueled differently. And for some of us, the corporate space for our entire journey is what does it for us. And that's great. The key is recognizing what is it for you that fuels you and being okay and giving yourself permission to move in a different direction if that thing no longer fuels you versus feeling like, because I've always done this, I have to stay stuck in this space. And then you start showing up feeling unfulfilled and you're on autopilot. So go in the direction of what fuels you, go in the direction of your dreams and your goals and your ideal life. And your ideal life could be very simple. I consider myself to be a really simple person, but your ideal life could be something really elaborate if that's what works for you, but go in the direction of what feels great and amazing for you.
I love it, and it is the perfect note to wind down on because it is all about you and what you want, and having that support of someone that says, "You got this."
Mhm.
And that's what we're here for. You've got this, and you can do it. If you need some ideas, listen to all the podcast episodes. There's tons of ideas. If
Yeah.
you've got it, like someone will say, "Do you want some more ideas?" No, I got this. If you got it, move on. It's okay. So I love it. Hey, Lena, why don't you tell our friend a little bit about you? I mean, I know we've heard some, but what do you do now? And if they would love to get a hold of you, how they could do that?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Lena Wilson. I'm a transition coach, and I help women gain the confidence and the clarity to navigate both career and personal midlife changes. And so that can range from careers to empty nesting to going through a divorce, recovering from that. I really help you navigate that, and it's not just getting through the change, but I help women thrive through the change by leveraging my transition blueprint. And you can reach me on the best way is through my website, which is lenawilson.com. I am also on social media at Coach Lena Wilson. And so I look forward to connecting with all of you.
You can tell them about your book too.
Absolutely. So I became an author in 2019. I wrote the book called Broken Heart Still Shine. And that book was just kind of very real and raw experience that I went through, which was the darkest season of my life, which was I went through a really painful divorce and came face to face with dealing with just scars of rejection and abandonment in my life. And so I write the book. The first half of the book is me telling my story about that. And the second half of the book is really sharing tools and resources around how I rewrote my life, rebuilt my entire life so that I can live a life of freedom and peace and joy that I sit in today. And you can find that book on Amazon. It's called Broken Hearts Still Shine.
I love it. What is that one thing we should try this week to start writing that next chapter if we're ready?
The one thing I would say would be to do something that you've never done before that you've been curious about. Like, just do it. Don't even overthink it. But what's that one thing that, man, I really want to do that thing because I feel like it's going to bring me a lot of inner joy and peace, and just do it. Just go for it. Because that one thing could ignite something that you never even expected and could open a whole new chapter that just fulfills your life in ways that you never expected.
And the biggest thing it will give you is to know that it's safe to try something new. And so keep doing it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I have really enjoyed our conversation and just, I really appreciate it. I know it's time out of your day and you get to spend it with me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
And
you
our
so much for
friend.
having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, friend. I am not a medical or mental licensed professional. I'm here for entertainment. Someone who's walked a rough path and would like to help you walk the smoothest path possible for you. So thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.